The aim of this film is to provide a basic and a foundational level of training to all those who give so generously of their time volunteering for the United Synagogue, as well as for our wonderful staff. Our volunteers perform many crucial roles for the organisation, which will often bring them into contact with children to varying degrees. The United Synagogue, its employees and our volunteers have a duty of care to safeguard all children involved in activities undertaken by or on behalf of our organisation. We have a shared aim to provide a safe environment for children to be able to actively participate in all of the activities that our communities have to offer. And so by law, we have an obligation that all of our volunteers and all of our staff have the tools that they need to support safeguarding and to support the difficult issues that arise when a child is or has been abused.
The main piece of law that provides these obligations is the Children Act 2004, which states that people working in public bodies who interact with children in their everyday work have an obligation to safeguard children, to promote the welfare of children, and to know what procedures they need to follow. This applies to us specifically through a provision in a document called Working Together to Safeguard Children, which applies the Children Act to faith organisations and provides important government guidance.
It includes various types of safe procedures for organisations to follow, including professional leads with clear lines of accountability. It gives ideas of reporting and how this should be done in an appropriate manner. It stresses our obligation for training across the organisation with the appropriate level, as well as creating a culture within the organisation of listening to children. We should be aware of signs and symptoms of abuse. We should always act in a child's best interests. We should not be complacent. It could happen here. We should have regular training.
The United Synagogue takes its responsibility with regards to these obligations very seriously. We strive to create a supportive, sensitive culture and a responsive leadership approach whereby people are encouraged to come forward and share any concerns in the knowledge that they'll be listened to and effective action will be taken. We need all of our staff and all of our volunteers to share in the responsibility for creating this culture, and that starts with raising awareness so that we can all be vigilant.
What is child protection? There are 4 key principles involved in protecting children. The first is responsibility, namely the responsibility of everybody to ensure they do what they can to keep children safe. The second is the everyday principle, that every day counts. We have to act in a timely fashion to protect children. Third is the right to be safe. Every child has the right to be safe. And the fourth is the coordinated response, which means that at local and at a greater organisational level, we have to work together along with the relevant governmental agencies to ensure that children are safe and protected. The latest guidance sets out 4 categories of abuse. Each one has its own signs and symptoms.
The first is neglect, which people often think doesn't happen in the Jewish community, but actually we know that it's the most common reason for a child to be the subject of a local authority's child protection plan. Neglect can include both physical and emotional things, so children who aren't properly fed and children who are starved of emotion and affection. The signs to look out for are children who aren't properly dressed, who aren't properly washed, but also children who perhaps aren't being properly supervised.
The second is signs of physical abuse. Aggression or injuries at home could show up in a number of different ways. It could be obvious, or it could be that the young person is wearing additional clothing to try and hide signs of abuse.
The next form is emotional abuse, which sadly is all too common and often combined with other forms of abuse. It can come about through behaviour of parents, humiliation, bullying, or even parents being overprotective. It can result in a child who is withdrawn, self-critical, unemotional, and badly behaved.
Finally, sexual abuse, which is in many ways the one that we at the US should be the most concerned about. Whilst it commonly takes place in a family, it's not unlikely that it could occur on our premises perpetrated even by a member of a community, even a reputable member of the community. We know from the experience of other communities and from the accounts of survivors that it can really cause lifelong trauma and pain. When we talk about sexual abuse, this can include inappropriate touching, sexual activity, and also grooming through gradually building up a relationship of trust and then abusing that trust. A child who's being sexually abused may demonstrate behaviour that's inappropriate for their age or behave towards others in a manner that's perhaps overly sexualised. They may also develop coping mechanisms such as controlling eating.
We have appointed community safeguarding coordinators across our communities. They should be your first port of call. They in turn will liaise with the central child protection team, who will in turn liaise with the authorities. We must also note that where there is an immediate threat to a child's safety, you must call 999.
If you are in a situation in which you are concerned about a child, we ask that you do the following. Be alert, question behaviours, ask for help, and refer on. Although it may not always be appropriate to follow the 4 steps sequentially, if there is immediate danger, go straight to police or social care. If a child makes a disclosure to you about abusive behaviour, a recommended approach is as follows. Listen in a calm, concerted way. Ask open questions and make sure not to put words in the child's mouth. A recommended technique is the TED technique. Tell, explain, and describe.
Ask a child who else they might have told, and make sure that they're aware that you can't assure them of absolute confidentiality, because sometimes you need to share that information for their own welfare. But when you do share the information, it should be done through the correct channels and it shouldn't be shared any more widely than is absolutely necessary. It's really crucial to obtain accurate information that can then be passed on to the authorities. So please log everything that you remember immediately and record the time and date of your conversation.
It is clear from lessons learnt from the authorities, the child's voice must be heard. We know that people often approach these situations optimistically, hoping for the best, sometimes not really listening to what's being said and not always taking the facts at face value. It can be very hard to believe or accept that something as horrendous as abuse is taking place, but our obligation is to deal with the difficult situation.
It's important that we are clear as to what is or what is not our responsibility. It is not for us as staff or volunteers to assess a situation. We must though ascertain basic facts and refer on. This takes the burden off us. We shouldn't think too hard about referring. Just refer. It's important that we report all suspicions and allegations, including historic ones, so that we take them seriously, responding swiftly and appropriately.
Unfortunately, in today's world, we know there are many risks posed to children. Working in communities, we also need to be aware of what our children are dealing with on a daily basis. Abuse isn't only happening in the corridors of our schools and in our homes, but the online environment is being used by predators to groom children. As well as reporting classical abuse situations, we also ask that you are alert to what children in your communities may be dealing with. So when you hear perhaps of situations where a child is receiving inappropriate messages, when a child is being threatened online, or even when a child is being asked by an adult to meet up, then please do report those situations as well, using the same channels.
The chart which you see in front of you is a chart showing who is involved at the United Synagogue with child protection. At the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see reference to the community safeguarding coordinators. They are the people in each shul who coordinate the child protection activities within the shul. And if you're working within a shul context, they're the people with whom you should liaise in the first instance. Although they are responsible, you are their eyes and ears, and anything which comes to your attention should be brought to their attention in the first instance. Or you can phone us up, that is us at central office, either myself or my colleague Delia Goldring, whose contact details are on this chart. In the event of an emergency, especially the possible imminent committing of a crime involving children, you should have no hesitation in calling the police on 999.
We hope that this video has given an insight into some of the things to look out for and some of the steps that you can take. We're all striving to do the best for our communities, and together we all hope to create safe spaces for our children. And we really thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and we're really, really grateful to have all of our staff and all of our volunteers on board in this important work.
As staff and volunteers of United Synagogue, we have a duty of care to promote the welfare of our young people. We also have the obligations to make ourselves aware and follow the procedures.
There are 4 categories of child abuse to be aware of: neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and emotional abuse. Each one has its own signs and symptoms to be aware of.
We should all be vigilant and pursue concerns about abuse or disclosures made.
Perpetrators don't have predictable characteristics. It's important that we report signs of abuse, even if we're worried about the ramifications that may have within our community.
Please bear in mind the need for confidentiality. Disclosures should be shared with the Community Safeguarding Coordinator and/or the Central Child Protection Officer only.
Keep a written record of any conversations with the child.
Safeguarding children is all of our responsibility. Together, we can create an environment where all our children are protected from harm.